Tonight in national news, we start with a 21-year-old man who is facing murder charges after a shooting spree that left 5 people dead in Louisiana. The suspect was captured this morning in Virginia, over 1,000 miles from the crime scenes. DeMarco Morgan has the story.
Dakota Terrio was booked into the jail in Richmond County, Virginia on Sunday. His arrest marked the end of a multi-state manhunt that began a day earlier in Louisiana. Sheriffs say the suspect had been living with the family of his 20-year-old girlfriend, Summer Ernest, inside their trailer on Saturday morning. He allegedly shot and killed her, as well as her father and her 17-year-old brother.
There was no red flags. There's no sign of anything, so we have no motive at this time.
Investigators say Terrio then went to his parents' house.
He shot both his mother and his father. Based on information we received at the scene from the father, who was still alive at the time, he gave us the information necessary for us to cut warrants on Dakota Terrio for 2 counts of first-degree murder.
As the search for the killer got underway, police say Terrio was already headed north to his grandmother's home in Virginia, over 1,100 miles away. Deputies were there when he showed up after an all-night drive.
She called this morning looking for the officers to go by and make sure that the house was safe for her to go into. While the officers were there, the individual actually drove by. He drove up into the driveway at that time, had a pistol in his hand.
Terrio dropped the weapon and surrendered without incident. He's facing 5 counts of first-degree murder in Louisiana. DeMarco Morgan, CBS News, New York.
Authorities say the suspect had been living with his girlfriend's family for less than a month. They say his parents had recently asked him to move out of their home. In other national news, furloughed federal workers return to their jobs tomorrow for the first time in 35 days. But getting back to the normal, with the president threatening yet another shutdown, could take a lot longer. Errol Barnett reports from the White House.
He's willing to do whatever it takes to secure the border.
On Face the Nation this morning, acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney says President Trump is prepared to shut down the government again to get border security funding.
He doesn't want to shut the government down. Let's make that very clear. He doesn't want to declare a national emergency.
Democrats and Republicans now have until February 15th to agree on government funding and negotiate a bipartisan border security package.
I really feel that working with Democrats and Republicans, we can make a truly great and secure deal happen for everyone. Walls should not be controversial.
Today, moderate senators suggested what could be included in a bipartisan agreement.
It's going to be a combination of physical barriers, technology, more Border Patrol agents, more immigration judges, more censors.
An immigration reform has to be part of it. Just putting money towards a structure is not going to do the job that needs to be done.
Maggie Ewell, who works at the USDA, was furloughed during the shutdown and returns to work tomorrow.
We're going to try to settle our bills.
She is one of 800,000 federal employees awaiting essential back pay and is fearful the worst is not over.
I am very nervous because if we shut down again in 3 weeks, we'll be right back where we started.
Now, Mick Mulvaney, who is acting Chief of Staff and Budget Director, says unpaid federal workers will receive their back pay either early or late next week, adding that he hopes everyone receives their money by Friday. Errol Barnett, CBS News, the White House.
Back here in Montana, with the enactment of the continuing resolution, staff at Bighorn Canyon have resumed regular operations. In a press release from the National Park Service, Bighorn Canyon says they are fortunate to have a group of regular visitors that truly love their park, and the staff thanks them for cleaning up trash and keeping an eye on park resources during the lapse in appropriations. Wind gusts around the state reaching up to 70 miles per hour in some areas, causing last-minute mountain closures and possible power outages today. Those looking for a nice Sunday at the slopes had to rethink their plans. Red Lodge Mountain had to close due to high winds. This video of the Palisades chairlift earlier today, you can see the 600-pound chairs being blown nearly horizontal from the wind. Red Lodge Mountain Management released this statement: for guest and employee safety due to sustained high winds and gusts over 70 miles per hour, we are closing all lifts for the remainder of the day. Sunday, January 27th. We are sorry for the inconvenience. See you on the slopes another day. And join here now with meteorologist Connor Pregitzer. Wind really being the story today.
Definitely. Some wintry impacts out there as well. We didn't see that, but that's not to say they didn't happen. Combine that with the wind, and it was a very eventful Sunday here. Here's the storm reports board. As we can see, fairly busy one out there. A number of wind reports, basically all the wind reports you can see up there. That's kind of the little curly cues there. Our 50+ mile-an-hour gusts reports from basically everywhere east of the divide. We do note that there are also a few snow-related ones down in Red Lodge, just the nature of this storm pushing that moisture up against those foothills. We've been talking about it for the last couple of days. Reports of accumulations of 3 to 4 inches of snow down there. So some wintry aspects being felt as well, but mostly the wind. Here tonight, dying down just a little bit at this point. Not to say that it's gone at all. Should continue to level off into the day on Monday, but it will still be something that we notice, and still we notice that northwesterly nature of it, which means it's going to stay cold. So cool temperatures to start. I'll break down the rest of the forecast for this week in just a little bit.
Thanks, Connor, and thank you for watching the 10 o'clock news here on Q2. After the break, we take you to New Orleans to this year's American Sheep Industry Association convention, where wool is the hot topic of conversation. Later in sports, Super Bowl 53 is just a week away. We hear from one Montanan who has played there before.
You're watching MTN News with Zoe Zandora, Storm Tracker weather with Connor Pregitzer, and sports with Casey Conlon. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.